area. And as protests are taking place all across the country, Connecticut lawmakers are questioning the tactics that are used by ICE.
The Senate Majority Leader is saying that they may consider legislation to hold ICE agents accountable if they break the law. Your chief political reporter Susan Raff is joining us live right now in Hartford with more. Susan.
Mark, we are seeing protests everywhere, and here in Connecticut there have been several since this young mother was killed in Minneapolis. And here in Connecticut, one state lawmaker feels Connecticut laws should be tougher. Outrage over the shooting death of a Minneapolis mother has intensified. People everywhere are shocked that ICE agents fired repeatedly at Renee Good, who had just dropped off one of her 3 children at school. ICE activity has created tension in Minneapolis and many other communities. Here in Connecticut, some are afraid to go to courthouses because ICE agents have shown up and taken people into custody. This fall, state judges implemented a new policy which bans ICE agents from wearing masks inside courthouses. After what has happened in Minneapolis, some Democratic lawmakers feel more action is needed. Bob Duff, the Senate Majority Leader, says ICE is out of control and there needs to be more accountability.
We're going to be looking at whether these ICE agents have violated the rights of individuals, whether they should be held accountable criminally in our state courts, not just federal court.
Senator Duff says important conversations must be had before any legislation is proposed. Will they get support from their Republican colleagues? Well, the Senate Minority Leader told us today that no one is above the law and everyone, including ICE agents, should be held accountable. But Republicans that we have spoken to feel that ICE agents were justified in what they did to this young mother in Minneapolis. Your chief political reporter, Susan Raff, Channel 3 Eyewitness News, live in Hartford.